Gangsters, hitmen, terrorists, murderers, armed robbers and cop killers. These are the type of people I was living with in HMP Frankland when I was 21 years old, whilst I was serving my IPP sentence. So in this episode I'm going to talk about a lad from up this way called Paul Weddle, a cop killer. He served 29 years altogether now. I think he's still in. Last I heard, I'm not sure where he's at now. But at the time when I was in Frankland, he'd been in 18 years then. And I've now been, it was about 12 years ago when I left Frankland. And I know he's still in, so he's done about 29 years. Well, it was in 1993 when it happened up in Sunnyside. He killed an on-duty police officer. And what happened was, because I remember when I was in Frankland with him, I was asking him how it happened and what happened. And he told us that he woke up in a police station one day, and I've spoke about this on one of my other videos about when you've been on drink or drugs and you're carrying weapons and you don't know what you're doing. You're waking up in police stations, because I've woke up in police stations many a times myself in the past when I was younger, covered in blood in the morning, not knowing what had happened and how I ended up there. But this is something similar to what happened with Paul, because he told us, like I say, he'd been with his friends, and I think he was on temazepam, Valium, but these are the 20ml ones, and there'd been a bit of a disturbance and the police were called out, and Paul's stabbed the copper in the back twice, I think it was, with a screwdriver. He's been locked up at the scene, took to the police station, locked up. He's woke up in the morning not knowing what he's there for or anything, but in the meantime the copper had been took to hospital and he died from his injuries. So Paul, when he's come round in the morning, he woke up and getting on his buzzer, asking the police has come to his hatch, and he's saying he's inquiring, he doesn't know what he's in for. And they've turned round and said, you're in for murdering a police officer. So imagine that, he's been that out of his head, not even knowing what he's doing. Went and took an officer's life, and then they come and tell him in the morning what he was in for. But Paul, when you seen him, he actually looked quite effeminate type. He was like softly spoken, he wore glasses, and he looked like a gay man, that's the best way I can describe it. He looked like an effeminate type. He looked like a soft bloke, like a soft-natured bloke. When you speak to him, and then when you find out what he was in for, you think you were like quite took aback. You think, fucking hell, he didn't look like he had it in him. But that just goes to show what happens when you're getting off your head and you're taking them type of tablets full of temazepam, like they say, the sleeping tablets, and they make you have blackouts. And he doesn't, he's sitting in prison and he can't even remember a thing about it. But like I say, he was Paul got through his time inside, because like I say, it was 18 years when I was in there, and he got through his time by taking smack, heroin. He used to take it on a regular basis. I knew a couple of lads that he was in there that he was taking it by taking heroin just to get through his time in there. And he was still a Cartier prisoner when I was in there. He was fighting to get off the book, but the last I'd heard, he got moved down to HMP Full Sutton, which is another Cartier maximum security prison, and that was to try and get off the book, because you had to go and do courses. But I don't think he was very compliant whilst he was in there, as in doing courses and stuff, because they kept knocking him back. But I think because what happens is when you're Cartier prisoner, it's called being on the book, and you've got to show that you're not a risk anymore. But anyone that knows Paul in there can tell that he's no longer a risk. But because of the seriousness of what he was in for, Like killing a copper, it's one of the worst things you can do in this country to get a sentence. If that had happened now, he got a 20-year. Sorry, I forgot to tell you the sentence he got. The sentence he got for doing it was a 20-year tariff, which is he's got to serve a minimum of 20 years before he's up for parole. Well, the sentences were a bit different back then. If that happened now, it would be a minimum of 35 years, I'd say, 35 to 40 years now for killing a copper. But like I say, Paul got himself involved with drugs and stuff, and I know a little story about when he got himself debted up once. Because Paul used to have budgies in Frankland, because in Frankland prison, in them high security jails, you're allowed a budgie. So he had a little budgie in a cage, he kept it in the cage. I remember it got out once and it was flying up and down the wing. Everyone was trying to catch it, the whole wing was out trying to get it. Had the toilet rolls in the hands, chucking it up, trying to scare it down because it was up in the ceiling, up in the skylight, in the bars. So everyone was out chucking the toilet rolls up, trying to get it down. But this one day, Paul had went back to his pad and he couldn't hear his little budgie chirping on. But Paul had get himself into debt through the drug use that he was doing, and he couldn't pay for it. And he was avoiding it instead of just being up front and just trying to diffuse the situation. But he was avoiding it, and in them places you can only avoid it so much. And he went back to his pad this day, couldn't hear his budgie chirping on, looked all over, couldn't see it, and he's lifted his toilet seat up to go for a piss, and his budgie was down the toilet with its head snapped off. So someone went in his pad, snapped the head off the budgie, and chucked it down the toilet. But that was Paul Weddle, killed a copper in 1993 over at Sunnyside. But like I say, he's still not out yet, I don't think. 29 years he served. But that's the story on Paul Weddle. But there is more stories about different people in Frankland. A few people's been asking us, do I know certain people, and do I know other stories about any. So I will be doing more stories on other people if you keep watching. But if you do like me content, click like and subscribe, and there will be more stories from HMP Frankland and other prisons. But a couple of the bigger names that were in Frankland whilst I was there was Warren Slaney, Colin Gunn, Andy Shack, a few other people from up this way. But I'll not mention too many at the minute, but I will be making videos on the last three that I've just mentioned there. About Andy Shack, Warren Slaney, and Colin Gunn. So keep tuned, hit that notification button and subscribe. And I will be uploading future videos soon. But enjoy the rest of your weekend, people. Take care.